to computer. There we go.
Yeah, so just very briefly, and some of you know me, and Henry and I have been we've worked pretty closely for many years on some of the efforts in Boston. But for the few of you here who don't know me that well, I grew up in Wisconsin. I moved with my family to actually Southern Africa when I was 15, to Mozambique. And then I moved back to the US when I was 19, and that was 2 weeks before 9/11, and I moved to New York City. So that was like my entry back to the US, and my introduction to New York City was being in New York on 9/11. It was my first day of college classes, actually. And so it's been a big part of my adulthood, basically. It's been my whole adulthood. I was very anti-war. I was very politically active in those early years after 9/11, going to anti-war rallies, the Iraq War and everything. And I was, in the back of my mind, had questions about 9/11, and kind of just eventually, after like a year or two, just kind of moved to assuming that they let it happen on purpose, without having studied it much. That was just kind of my viewpoint. And then, 2006, I started reading and all the stuff that was coming out at that point from Stephen Jones and Kevin Ryan and Loose Change and David Ray Griffin and all the rest. So I've been active since then. New York City Coalition for Accountability Now, NYC Can. Some of you have been around for a long time will remember that. The first ballot initiative in New York City that kind of came to fruition in 2009. And we didn't get on the ballot. So I had a big role in that. Went out to Berkeley in 2010, did grad school there. And over the years, got more and more involved with AE 911Truth, kind of either as a collaborator, as a partner, because I was running the organization in New York City, or as a volunteer. And eventually ended up in 2015, starting at AE, and was there for 8 years, which is, wow, it's like, couldn't believe 8 years passed that quickly. It's amazing that it was that long. And then I left AE in January of this year, and did a lot of things over the years while I was at AE. Wrote Beyond Misinformation back in 2015, this sort of summary of all the best evidence related to the World Trade Center, and a number of other projects that I won't run through in a whole lot of detail. When I left AE in January, I was, I had been involved. I had worked here and there with James Gorley at the International Center for 9/11 Studies, and I knew that Graham McQueen was on the board, and I'd been collaborating with Graham for a long time prior to early this year, and I knew that James had the 501c3 status, and I agreed with the mission of the organization and the work that they did, particularly organizing the Toronto hearings, and also with the recent passing of David Ray Griffin, and knowing that Graham McQueen was going to pass away soon. I just saw this need and this opportunity to kind of bring together bring together the everything that the International Center for 9/11 Studies had produced, primarily the Toronto hearings, together with the Journal of 9/11 Studies and the 9/11 Consensus Panel. And I knew that all the people that were involved in these three different organizations were generally good friends, and there's sort of a constellation of research that they had all put together. And I said, we should really make it easier for people to find these things by putting them all together on one website, and kind of and if we kind of bring these organizations together, there will be sort of a synergy, and it will all be greater than the sum of its parts. And we can, we have the 501c3 status with the International Center for 9/11 Studies. And then there were certain things that I was working on at AE 9/11Truth that weren't necessarily, quote unquote, owned by AE 9/11Truth. So like the Campbell family trying to open a new inquest into the death of Jeff Campbell. And, that ultimately that was going to be best served by me continuing to work with the Campbell family on it. So, and I had a feeling that would fit right into the agenda of this new organization that was taking shape. I had also started working on that film, Peace War 9/11, prior to leaving AE 9/11Truth. I had interviewed Graham last October, a year ago. So there was just all these things that were on the burners, on the front burner, that I was working on that seemed to fit right in with everything else that this organization was bringing to the table. And Kevin Ryan and Elizabeth Woodworth and the people that were David Chandler, James Gorley, Graham McQueen, everybody was very much in favor of bringing these three organizations together, and having me sort of on a day-to-day basis kind of run the new organization. So we decided to change the name of the overall, like it's not as if there's the International Center for 9/11 Justice and then there's the Center for 9/11 Studies, and like the International Center for 9/11 Studies is the main vehicle here, but it's been renamed as the International Center for 9/11 Justice. And that reflects not just a, like a cool name change, but actually more of a orientation towards not only doing research and education, but also action-oriented activities. And so like one thing that falls into that is the Campbell family's effort to open the new inquest, which is sort of a legal initiative, but other types of action as well, whether that means like, street activism or, there's many things can fall under action, but we knew that we wanted to be more than just sort of researchers and scholars doing research and publishing research. And that a lot of effort needed to go, a lot of focus needed to go into education, raising awareness, and a lot of focus should be on action and getting, trying to move the needle through other strategies besides the research. So that was really the genesis of it. And we finally got everything in order and managed to finish the website and everything by early June. And we launched the organization publicly in June. And, I'll run through some of the things that we've done since then, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So, you here probably are familiar with some of the highlights of what we've done over the last 4 or 5 months, most notably releasing Peace, War, 9/11. And Susan, thank you very much for your kind words about the film. And when you were on this call a month ago with David Chandler, I really appreciate it. Then there's as I've already mentioned, the effort to get the new inquest with the Campbell family. We had what was a setback at the end of June with the UK Attorney General denying the Campbell family, denying their application, denying them the authority, putting this in technical terms, denying them the authority to apply to the High Court for a new inquest. And so we, after waiting almost two years and then getting that news, was a major disappointment. We were more optimistic, the Campbell family and Matt and me and Matt's barrister, we were all pretty optimistic, because the law is completely on our side here. And so we were we weren't shocked, but we were a little surprised, probably, more surprised than most people in the 9/11 Truth Movement who knew about it, who were probably pretty pessimistic that strategy could ever go anywhere. But we knew that once we saw the letter from the Attorney General that the decision was absolutely legally indefensible, and that we would have a good chance if we challenged it in court. And so we managed to raise enough funds to do it. And the family was about to about to appeal the decision or seek judicial review. And it's part of the protocol that you have to send a letter to the Attorney General beforehand saying, we're going to seek judicial review. This is our grounds for doing so, giving you this opportunity to change your decision. And sure enough, they didn't change the decision completely. They didn't reverse it and say, okay, you can go forward and have your new inquest, but they withdrew their initial decision. And so that was a very, a positive breakthrough. It happened about, at this point, I think 6 weeks ago tomorrow. And so we're waiting for the new decision. They said that they would issue a new decision in due course. So we don't know what due course means, but we're hoping that it means that that's measured in months and not years. And that we really are, expecting that it will come before the end of the year. But one area that hasn't gotten as much attention that we're very serious about, and that we are going to be able to now that we've released the film and things are kind of up and running more, is the research component of it. The Journal of 9/11 Studies has published a few papers since we launched in June. They're actually some very, very important papers that I would love to bring more attention to. I think David mentioned the first one a month ago on this call, the paper on Building 7. the instantaneous free fall of World Trade Center Building 7 and NIST's attempt to hide it or to cover it up. And then a month later, John Cole published a paper that he had written a year earlier that was it's about the Twin Towers. But it was a paper it was a discussion paper that he had submitted to the ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers Journal of Structural Engineering. It was a response to a paper by Zdenek Bizant and Jialing Lei. So people that are more interested in the technical side that have been in this issue for a long time will know who Zdenek Bizant is. He's the person who's sort of chiefly responsible for the sort of pile driver theory, providing the technical analysis, the mathematical analysis to try to back up the pile driver theory of the Twin Towers destruction. So this paper was really dubiously rejected by the Journal of Structural Engineering just 2 days after John submitted it. I actually worked with him on that paper last year. Maybe not quite enough to be called a co-author, but I basically assisted him a lot, reviewed it, helped him collect video footage for it, etc. And so I was intimately familiar with it and was really hoping that it would, I was like, this is it. And, the reason I'm bringing it up and spending this much time talking about it is that it really is quite important. And it's kind of, to me, sort of like the final nail in the coffin in terms of the literature, the engineering literature, of taking apart the official story, the pile driver theory. And it does it so simply. And basically, by pointing out that there was a huge portion, not only of the North Tower, but also of the South Tower, but it didn't stay standing as long in the case of the South Tower, and it was much more obscured by dust. But in the case of both towers, but especially the North Tower, it's very visible. You have a large portion of the core structure that remained standing after most of the tower had come down. And basically, the existence of that core structure standing there proves that the top section of the tower did not come all the way down and crush the 90 stories below it and remain intact, because if it were intact, it would have crushed that core structure. It would have brought that core structure down, in particular that one column that is reaching 60 stories high. And it just sort of so simply and brilliantly eviscerates the crush down, crush up theory that Bizant has been pushing since basically 2001, because that theory requires that the top section remains intact until it reaches the ground. If the top section breaks apart at all, there's not going to be enough combined force, even if you, under the most favorable assumptions, but there's not going to be enough combined force for the top to destroy the bottom. So yeah, I cared a lot about that paper, and we published it in July. So you can find them if you go to the Journal of 9/11 Studies page, which I can screen share and show it real quick, because I really would love to see people become very familiar with the website and how to use it to provide information, present information to people that are learning about this for the first time, or who are newcomers. Let me screen share here. All right, so that's the Journal of 9/11 Studies. That's the home of the Journal of 9/11 Studies on the IC 911 site. And if you scroll, you've got these three different sections, or two main sections: articles and letters. But on the main section here, if you just scroll down, to this part here, you'll get sort of what we call recommended articles. So these are the last three papers that we've published, and these two being the two key ones that I just talked about. So you can always, if you're kind of going, if you're like, oh, I want to share that paper, chances are there's a good chance that it's in this recommended articles section. If not, you can go to the articles page and scroll down, and we have the articles divided into three different categories, World Trade Center, and then the flights, and then just sort of other general category. But as you can see, a lot of papers published over the years here. But yeah. So, but the main thing I want to emphasize is that we're really just getting started, and we're just getting started in many ways, but and we are just getting started in terms of the education and the films that we want to make. And I'll say a little bit about what we want to do film wise going forward. But am I still sharing, or am I done sharing? I'm done sharing. Okay.
Done sharing. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, but I really want to emphasize to everybody out there, especially people like Lawrence, that, we are very interested in publishing research that people are producing throughout the movement. And obviously not as many people are doing research these days as in past years, but there's still a lot of people out there that are doing research, that are, and putting it out in different ways, whether it's on their own website or whatever. And we would love to have the journal, both the Journal of 9/11 Studies and the Debated Topics Forum, just be a venue where people will want to have their research published, because hopefully more people will see it, and then we can get more dialogue going. The Debated Topics Forum is explicitly oriented towards that, towards taking on being a venue for issues that have been more controversial in the movement to be discussed. And so there's a very low, there's very minimal peer review. There's not really peer review. It's just moderated. And David Chandler, we sent out an announcement about this last week, that the Debated Topics Forum just published this new paper by David Chandler and Wayne Costi on the Pentagon, and the damage to the Pentagon wall, and their argument that it's consistent with a large plane. And so we're hoping that people will read it and respond to it. And there's bound to be people that will disagree with that analysis, and we would love to see their arguments in writing, and published in the forum. So yeah, and we hope that more and more people will see it as a place to submit research findings, and we will on our side as well be trying to instigate and foster as much research as possible. One area that we are more, and I think I've said this, and I think others have said this, is like we think that there's a lot more to be learned about the aviation aspects of the events, and we're particularly interested in further development, further evidentiary support for the hypothesis of that the planes were remotely controlled, and bringing forth that evidence more. And we think, especially because the hijacker narrative is still so prominent and discussed in both the mainstream media and even the independent media. The revelations earlier this year around the two San Diego alleged hijackers, having CIA connections or being recruited by the CIA, that, we think that further discoveries around the aviation and in our view, and I think this is shared by everybody at the organization, that these 19 or these four pilots and 19 hijackers could not have hijacked the planes and could not have flown them, would fit into the ongoing public discourse around that's still going on around 9/11. So we do have a paper or two under review right now that are in that category, and we hope to see more published in that. So yeah, I really want to, and I think because obviously another way that we've been making real progress, the most visible way besides the film is with the interviews that we've managed to get over the past 4 or 5 months. And obviously a lot of focus is going into that because we do know a lot already. A lot is very well established. And so we're trying to, we have limited resources, but we're doing our best to put, sort of an appropriate amount of focus in each area between getting the word out but also producing new research. And I think that in the research is very much the bread and butter, of all the folks that are on the board of the organization that started these 3 organizations, 12, 15 plus years ago. And I think that ultimately we can move the needle by producing, groundbreaking, hopefully, I like to use the word game-changing research. I think there's still much more to be discovered, even though so much is already known. There's more to be discovered that can lead to major breakthroughs and media exposure and the rest. So I figured I mentioned the film thing. We are hoping that we can get our ducks in a row and get enough momentum to get another film made by the next anniversary, by 10, 11 months from now. And that this film, as I envisioned it, I started thinking about it this past spring when I was working on the Graham film, the Graham McQueen film, which is a similar format film. interviewing Kevin Ryan and having Kevin Ryan go into, essentially do a film version of Another 19. Although we would certainly have the latitude, the space to go into beyond just the contents of Another 19, but to start to really put more focus on the whodunit aspect of this as well. Not, I talked about the aviation and everything, but also the whodunit aspect. Because frankly, that conversation has not perhaps gotten enough attention. All of the things that we're interested in going further into have not maybe gotten enough attention because controlled demolition has been so focused on, in part because the evidence is so overwhelming. It's relatively easy to get. It's a good way to educate the public by just focusing on demolition. But and also because of the success of 911Truth, I think over the years, controlled demolition has gotten a lot of focus. So we're trying to put the spotlight in other areas, and so that's a film that we are hoping to make over the next 11 months, and I'd love to hear sort of feedback, or not just now but going forward, people's ideas or suggestions or whatever for how that, for information to include in that film, which is basically setting forth an evidence-based theory about who could have perpetrated these crimes. So there's that. And Lawrence, since you're here, I would love to engage with you a little bit, although I have limited time now, but engage with you a little bit on your research. And if you might have missed a little bit of what I said about that, but about the center being an open venue for research to be submitted and published, whether it's in the Journal of 9/11 Studies or the Debated Topics Forum. In terms of deciding which venue makes most sense for the given paper, because there is some gray area. But if an issue, the Pentagon attack, the question of what hit the Pentagon is a textbook example of what belongs in the Debated Topics Forum. People are welcome to submit outside of that, and maybe a couple of the things, some of the things that you've been researching, Lawrence. I don't know that I would qualify it as a debated topic per se, or necessarily controversial one. And so part of it comes down to, like, would you rather have it in the Journal of 9/11 Studies, where it would be peer reviewed by 2 reviewers, go through that process, or would you rather have it go in somewhere where there's minimal review, and it's more likely that somebody would submit a paper in response to your paper. So we don't, there's maybe a sense that the Debated Topics Forum is sort of less prestigious or less whatever than the Journal of 9/11 Studies. And I don't think that's really the case. I just think there are 2 different venues for 2 different kinds of, scholarly activity. So, and that's basically it. I got 10 minutes left, so I'm all ears and happy to answer any questions, and I'll open it up.
Lorenzo,
me. Sorry.
Yeah. Since it's your birthday.
Happy birthday, Lawrence.
Thank you. It's been.
I was saying, you don't look 79. You look like 70. You look great.
I'm actually only 63.
I honestly would have, at least from seeing you on Zoom, I would have believed you. So
Ted, I just want to add that I think this recent film has really been an eye-opener for a lot of people who are have been on the fence, and or not even interested. And I've got I think I told you, my close brother, who's been very suspect of all this for many years that I've been involved with it, and just recently a minister who's of our church, you here, and I won't give you her name yet, but she's reviewed it, and she's actually considering it in a way that she had never. And I've been sort of not on her, but sharing this for probably a couple of years now. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. And
I mean, it's extremely well produced.
Yeah.
Just cinematography alone was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really glad to hear that, Henry, that it's opening up people's minds who are on the fence. And I have to, in terms of the quality of it, the cinematographer was amazing, the editor was amazing, the composer was amazing. I'm like 10% responsible for kind of how beautiful the film is and how effective it is. So, there was a lot of tremendous artists contributed to it. So
It's
I was
good to
lucky I found them. So
yeah.
Henry, good to see you.
You too, Lawrence. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
We're aging.
Still here.
Getting younger.
We're getting younger.
Uh,
Live well, die young.
Yeah. I mean, Ted, just to follow up on kind of also on what you and I chatted about maybe a month ago in terms of, and Al and I chatted last week, and in terms of finding engineering groups and trying to do some coordinated effort. I mean, I'm more than happy to ring the bell of the AIA again, but probably only if and when we can get a group of engineers who are open and interested, and perhaps through the PAPA efforts that you guys started last year with Richard. And I mean, I think there's a new leadership there, as I mentioned, and I'm open to reaching out to them. It's been 5 years since we had our, battle with it.
well, there's also the educational
Years.
institutions,
Yeah.
yeah, that we want to reach out to.
And so finding a way that, many groups can join in on an effort, whether it's a screening of the film or a conversation afterwards, or, if it had to be a virtual event, it could always be that too. But so that's it. I won't say anything else.
Regarding the film, Al, did anyone contact the West Newton Cinema?
Not as yet, no.
And we got to do that.
Yeah, either Watertown or West Newton Cinema, I don't know which.
Yeah, or both.
Or both, yeah, exactly.
Why not both?
So
I got a question for Ted.
yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
go
Ted.
ahead,
We got
Miles.
a
Hi,
lot of.
Ted. My name's Miles. I'm up in
Miles.
Canada. So I appreciate the international aspect of your organization and the excellent Graham McQueen documentary. I got to wave the Canadian flag and appreciate that. But just quickly, are you on LinkedIn? Can we connect on LinkedIn?
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn.
Because I'm posting open letters. I've been writing open letters to our head of state here in Canada and chiefs of Treaty 7, the Indigenous First Nations chiefs, because I'm making connections with Truth and Reconciliation, the initiative that we have here in Canada. And it all connects. So I really would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'll look you up, and you can read my letters as you may.
Okay,
My
awesome.
open letters. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and the center also has the LinkedIn page too. So although it's not as active as our other pages, but you can follow that. I'll try to do a better job about posting on LinkedIn. But yeah. So I'll keep an eye out for your message, Ralph.
So Ted, I had a couple of comments. One, I'm glad you mentioned the idea of who did it. And I don't know what the another 19 covers, but from a geopolitical standpoint, actually naming names, and I can think of several in the State Department currently that are serious suspects in my mind. And I'd love to see somebody delve into that whole subject matter. Because they're still running our policy worldwide, and it's the same group that was part of the project for the New American Century. And that's an important topic that really gets attention when you're out on the street, and everybody wants to know, well, who did it? And
Yeah,
that's the first thing out of their mouth. So I'd love to have an arsenal of information that I could hit back with. So
yeah.
I was happy to hear you say that you were going to be looking into that in the future.
Yeah.
The other comment, Craig McGee, I know, is I don't know if he's persona non grata or in his own mind, or whether he has reached out to you in the journal for the 9/11 studies. But I remember that conference call we were on and over the Pentagon, and it seemed like there was some real friction there. But I don't know if you've heard from him since.
No, I haven't heard from him. I understand that he wrote an article that was very critical of Richard for supporting the center or something along those lines.
Who's this? Who wrote it?
Craig
Oh,
McKee.
Craig, yes, right, okay.
So right now, if Craig wants to, David Chandler's paper is there sitting on the debated topics forum. So the door is open for Craig or anyone else who disagrees with David Chandler and Wayne Costi to and can comment specifically on the question of the damage to the wall of the Pentagon. The door is open for them to criticize. It's not peer reviewed, so it just has to avoid ad hominem attacks, basically, and provide references to the sources, and it can be published. So I hope that Craig would see this as an opportunity to engage in real discussion and to be able to criticize David Chandler's work. Yeah, I hope he does if he wants to. If not, that's fine too.
Good enough.
So Ted, I was wondering about the Campbell family. Did your work with them involve traveling to the UK? Did you go to the UK, or you just worked with them remotely?
Mostly working with them remotely. I was fortunate enough to be in Europe, and I spent I was in Ireland for much of the summer at my sister-in-law's house, my wife's sister.
Nice.
And I made a weekend trip to London and I saw Matt, and I saw Matt's brother-in-law, who was the editor for the film Peace, War, 9/11. And we saw another friend. So there's this cool synergy between the inquest stuff and the film. And so we were able to talk about both things at the same time. We sat down and watched the film. Matt has another friend who was, it's an amazing sort of connection of coincidences, but there's a friend, his name is Peter Touche. There's no reason to hide it. Who actually had to go through a process to get a new inquest into the death of his wife. Sort of medical malpractice about 20 years ago. And he's been very supportive of Matt because Matt's going through the same process. Peter Touche also happens to be a film producer, and has connections to distribution companies and stuff like this. So we sat down with Peter at his place and we watched the film and talked about the inquest and da-da-da. So anyway, short story is I did see Matt and Matt's brother-in-law, the editor, in London this summer, but for a brief weekend. But for the last 3 years, I've been working with Matt on the inquest, mostly remotely. The fundraising for it, the publicity, and putting together the evidence that was submitted to the Attorney General 2 years ago as well. So I probably will, if the inquest actually happens, I will probably end up going there for the inquest.
Yeah, great. He speaks very well. But I have to mention the hair. I'm sorry, I have to mention it. I've never seen a haircut like that before in my life. Is there an inside story on that?
He said it's just a reflection of how he feels about the world. It's sort of an FU to the world, he calls it.
So he's kind of like a punker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be very open about this. There's no, I was there. I think there are ways that he can, that hairstyle obviously is weird. I think it looks great if it's done the right way, if he's wearing the right clothes. He went on Clayton Morris and was wearing this funny white shirt and it looked funny and it just, whatever. And I was like, next time he's got to own the look basically for it to look good and for it to not look weird. And so I've encouraged him just to own the look and go all out with the punk rocker look, and then it kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, I love listening to him, but I really can't look.
You've been a knockout a couple of nights ago.
I'd like to interject something really quickly regarding what's the guy's the professor's name that did the University of Alaska report again? I'm just not on the tip.
Right,
Halsey.
Mhm.
Leroy.
Leroy Halsey, right? There's an issue with his hair too.
With his hair as well. Okay. I'll mention what's the issue with his hair.
Oh, why did you bring that up?
I had to. Since everybody's bringing up issues with hair, I
No,
figured,
that's too embarrassing.
okay, I'll let it go.
Why
then.
did you bring that up?
Because you brought it up.
I didn't bring it up publicly.
No, you didn't.
Oh, we all. So, Lawrence, I have to. Susan, do you have another? Do you have a question? Another question?
No, I'm fine. Let me lower my hand.
Okay. Well, Lawrence, I just want to say, I would encourage you to submit if you would like to write a paper about your stuff. I don't know, whatever works for you, but the door is open for you to submit that.
I would like to have a conversation with you and probably Susan, you do a Zoom conversation. I am not someone who writes papers. I put together.
It's got to be done though. We could write a paper.
You could write a paper, but I'd like to,
Yeah.
there's a format. And all the work that I've done is on 9/11 synthesis.
Yeah, we can translate it to a paper. That's a good thing to do.
Who can help with that?
I can help you with that.
Well,
AI can help you with that.
all right. Well, Ted knows generally what the format is, and I've never done a white paper before.
Mhm.
So
You could look at.
I need to understand what the format is. What I've seen them, but I don't know how to handle mine because it's fairly succinct and it shouldn't take much. It should take maybe a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs. And I know that most of the stuff out there is a lot longer than that. So what is it that
We just flesh out everything that you've got. That's
let's-
all. Put it into paragraphs. That's all.
Yeah,
okay.
Lawrence, we can. I'm happy to talk to you and Susan and about how to do what it should look like.
All right, then can we do a Zoom call and I can
Yeah.
present 9/11 synthesis, the website, and we can look at the details that I've
Yeah.
focused on. Then
Sure.
Susan, you can set that up. And I'd like I don't have your email address in my address book. So
Well, obviously I've got it.
Ted could just share it by telling me right now if he wants, or
Yeah, sure. It's I mean, we'll just I'll get it if you just write it to info@ic911.org.
info@9. Okay.
Yeah.
I
Lawrence, I would give you my personal IC911 address, but since this is going to be recorded and put on YouTube and stuff,
I got you. So I've got that somewhere. It's not in my address book, but I click on it on the on your website. So
And you know Susan.
Yes.
I talk with her every day.
Yes.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah. I do got to sign off now, but also actually, if I start talking about it, we'll end up talking for another 5 minutes at least. But I'm pretty familiar with the seismic evidence, Lawrence. And if you look at the last paper, the paper that David Chandler and I published back in June, we look at the seismic stuff related to Building 7. Did you read that? Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I believe that the first seismic signal probably was generated about a second or two probably before the east penthouse came down.
I believe that that Richard's analysis or Andre Rousseau's analysis placed it about maybe 10 to 12 seconds before that.
No, I don't think so. So we can discuss that too, but I'm pretty sure that his analysis, I mean, I'm not sure that he got specifically into the timing, but
it's really important to know that.
It's important to know. Well, okay. I mean, I haven't read his paper in a couple of years, but I read it a lot like 3 years ago when I was working on the request for correction.
What about Richards? Have you watched?
I've seen Richard's video before. Yeah, and I mean, I think where there's more confusion I think where it's much more complicated, where there's more gray area, is on the timing with the towers. The timing with Building 7 is pretty straightforward, and I think Rousseau, I think I'm on the same page as Rousseau that the first seismic signal corresponded to the east penthouse going down about a second or two before that, and the second seismic signal, which he doesn't quite qualify as a full seismic signal, but NIST says it's two separate signals.
There are two separate events. That's correct.
Yeah, that the second one is just before the whole thing goes down.
Right.
And they're about 8 to 10 seconds apart, which is exactly the timing between the penthouse and the whole thing. So
Yeah, I would love to clarify some of this stuff with you. So on the Zoom call that we schedule, I will give you my analysis of that. And watching Richard's presentation of the seismic, the timing, especially very important, of the seismic events for the for building 7 for WTC 7, the two events are very, very tightly correlated. Also, the timing for and the magnitude of the seismic events prior to the collapse of each of the twin towers. And then there's the first recorded seismic event of the day, which occurred before the first plane struck. So there are 3 distinct collections, actually 1, 2, 3, 4 distinct seismic events that are very telling.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk about it. So, all right.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ted. I wish we had a bigger crowd for you, but it's unrecorded and it's going to go out to 285 people. So,
Awesome.
yeah. All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you very much
And
for having.
thank you for everything you're doing. Fabulous.
My pleasure,
Okay.
and really nice to talk to you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Ted. Thank you.
Thank you
All
all.
right.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, don't everybody leave.
No, we're sticking around for a while.
We have an agenda.
Yeah, a lot to cover. I don't know if we can get any half of it in, but
I might have another 20 minutes or so, Susan. I've got to go somewhere myself, but I'll hang in there for a bit.
Good, thank you. It's good to see you again. I'll repeat that, Henry. It's been at least a couple of years since we've contacted.
It's good to be with you all. And I'm glad Ted could make it tonight. And I've been watching these other ones that you've been recording, Susan, so thank you for keeping me on the mailing list.
so Susan, are you on is she on the phone?
He's on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
I-
I've got Chris Gruner trying to join us on the phone, so
Oh.
I'm gonna go on mute and talk him through this.
Okay, do you want to put the screen share on for the agenda items, Sue? So these are the things we try to cover in the latter part of the meeting. Some of them you can just go right over, but I try to come up with, some agenda items that are important to Boston 9/11 Truth, and what, particularly the action items that we're after. And so starting with everybody's take on what's going on in the Middle East, and the conflict, and whether the 9/11 Truth movement, I hate to say it, could benefit from the what's going on in the way of being involved with an anti-war aspect to it. The media coverage is probably if you're anything like I am, I'm so sick of hearing the same stories, the same story. I mean, it's very reminiscent of the repeating constantly after 9/11. The major media coverage is I mean, they're definitely trying to sell you, and it feels very similar. So it got me to thinking that we're being, having this whole story, the narrative, beaten into our heads, and nobody dare question what they're telling us. And so we had Richard was on last night, and he's very active in the what you call MAPA, and in the Boston area, and in the anti-war groups. And initially I had wanted to go down, and we have signs that say Boston 9/11 ends wars, and then Boston 9/11 Truth for peace. sort of blending in as a peace group. And he was sort of reticent about having us there because it was entirely based. The people that were out there were just, their whole mantra was the humanitarian aspects of what was going on, and nobody was identifying themselves. There's probably 20 groups that were sponsoring these. One at in Copley Square, and then another one in Elizabeth Warren's, where her offices are in the federal building. And huge crowds, like 2,000, all chanting, and so I backed off. I deferred to him because he's was able to. I mean, he's a member of these groups, so how we would be received. But I'm still looking for an opening in the anti-war movement, because that's basically, once people get used to the idea that this could have been a false flag, or the discussion of false flags and what happened on 9/11, I make them much more amenable to the idea of what happened on 9/11 was equally a false flag. So
Right.
that's sort of what if we had the troops to do it. I tried to assemble a bunch of people to go down there, but
Lorenzo and I went to the Support for Palestinians standout at Worcester City Hall.
yes, right, exactly.
We didn't go prepared with anything, but as we were looking for parking, we did see one woman with a sign about 9/11.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
which
couldn't
is
find her
great.
again in the crowd, but she was crossing the street to approach City Hall with this sign.
In the war room, Sandra Jelmy had talked about just wearing a T-shirt, that said, 9/11 truth or whatever, and not try to sell yourself too hard, but just wearing a T-shirt can generate a conversation, was her point, and not have to, be yelling 9/11 was an inside job or something equally obnoxious. But
Hey,
anyway,
can I ask a question?
yeah, sure.
Is the notion that this would be a false flag generated by who? By Hamas or the Israelis?
Well, that's the $1,000,000 question.
And it could be one and the same. There seems to be evidence that Hamas is supported by the Israelis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kevin Barrett writes a very good article about, if you follow him, and he does not think it was a false flag.
Kevin Ryan?
Kevin Ryan.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. What did I say? Did I say
Kevin Barrett?
Kevin Barrett.
Barrett, can you share that with us? Just a link to it?
I don't know if it's here. Did I post it up here?
Well, I don't need it right now, but
oh yeah, no, I can send it out. Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
He's living in Morocco right now. He was one of the original truthers at the Boston.
Yes. No, the Jihad book he's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he writes some good stuff. I follow him religiously.
Yeah.
And so he's very knowledgeable. I mean, he's a very good researcher, although he's a little pro-Muslim because he's married to a living in Morocco. I mean, he definitely touts the Muslim religion, and I mean, one of the things that I'm conflicted with is the idea that Hamas is free of guilt. I don't know anything about beheadings or cutting up pregnant women, or I mean, they all sounded to me like the incubator stories that we were given during the Iraq invasion. I mean, was it the Kuwait? No, who did they invade? But originally, I forgot. But anyway, that was circulated and proved to be a total fake. So the stories, in war, equally the stories you get out of the Ukraine are all suspect on both sides. You have no idea what you're reading and how it's verified. I follow Scott Ritter, who I also admire greatly, his research and his take on the Middle East. He just was interviewed, I think, by Clayton Morris in Redacted. Great conversation about. He worked with the Israelis. He was in the Marine Corps and had been an instructor for a lot of their communication between the IDF and the U.S. Marines. And so anyway, he has a different take on. He thinks Hamas has won because they've galvanized the world opinion against Israel, and the only way out for Israel is to start a humanitarian effort for the people that have been killed in Gaza, and that would neutralize all the press that Hamas is getting. But that's a stretch for us. I mean, I'm trying to sell get as much eyeballs on what we do, and basically street action for us, and how we can get ourselves entwined into being recognized as a peace-loving anti-war group, in addition to what our whole message is. So anyway, having said all that, the interviews of Ted Walter by Clayton Morris are excellent. I don't know if you have time to look at them. They had over 500,000 views, and Ted and Richard had been interviewed by Andy Steele in Freefall, which is another site of A&E. Andy Steele is I don't know if he's on the board or what he is, but he does all their interviews. And Ted is a very articulate spokesperson for us, and very measured ability to and a wonderful take on where we're going. And I follow him very closely because he really expresses himself very well. Anyway, item 4. The flyover at the Jets game has been postponed once more. They are trying to come up with another or a different wording of the banner, which originally, help me here, it was 911Truth loves.
Oh, it was Aaron knows, something like that.
Yeah, Aaron knows, 911Truth, or anyway, because of his having come out and spoken in favor of the 9/11 Truth movement, he's a supporter on some level, and it would be a great way. I mean, we all decided and donated money to have the aerial banner fly over MetLife Stadium, and the next game I think coming up is right around Thanksgiving. So they're still trying to do that. They've been rained out a couple of times, and the weather was not cooperating when they were trying to fly over the stadium, and so it's still on the table. It's definitely going to happen, but they're trying to decide what their new message should be, because so much time has gone by, and they wanted to actually the Giants game would have been the best venue, because being in New York, both the Jets and the Giants. But anyway, so I covered the insightful article by Kevin Barrett, why he thinks the massacres of the Israelis by Hamas was not a false flag by Mossad. There's a lot of people on the internet are talking about, how this is another Mossad false flag, and there's also a lot of discrepancies about who actually killed the people at the music festival. They were caught in a crossfire between Hamas and the Israeli IDF. There's a lot we don't know. So, I mean, it's all, sort of listening on the internet to what is always suspect.
It's worth bringing up again, Richard Gage's work in progress on the parallels between
That's right.
9/11
That was
and
last night.
Gaza.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely the false flag, the stand downs.
He covered all the similarities between
Yeah.
9/11 and the Hamas and Israel. And
Right.
he's very much on board with the idea that it was a false flag. And I think somebody was questioning why Kevin Barrett could possibly be on the side of that it wasn't. But you have to listen to Kevin Barrett because he makes a case for that. And
Richard, I'm sorry, was Richard does this on, is this part of his blog that he does, or?
Richard Gage.
Yeah,
Richard Gage will put it on his blog, but it's not up yet. We got a sneak peek last night on Craig McKee's thing, and he said it's about 40% done. So it's not ready for prime time yet.
Craig
okay.
McGee's that discussion last night was recorded, so I don't know where to find it, but somehow you can get it.
If you contact either Cheryl or Craig McKee, Cheryl, I keep forgetting her last name.
Curtis.
Curtis.
Curtis,
I don't know why I keep wanting to call her Cheryl Anderson. I don't know who Cheryl Anderson is. It's Cheryl Curtis. Okay. If you contact either one of them, they have the recording.
Right. And it's well worth listening to, I might add.
Yeah. And their forum is Truth and Shadows.
Right. I think that's right. Something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, we skipped a week in our Boston 9/11 meetings, but we're going to cover Barbara Honecker's appearance on our bi-weekly meeting and the talk she gave on the Pentagon and behind the smoke curtain. And it was very interesting. I still am, sitting on the fence about what happened there. But that's recorded on our website. Correct, Susan?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, but it's a monster to download because it was 3 hours.
Yeah, it went on way too long, and we didn't put parameters on how long she could talk. Boy, can she talk. So
it was the Barbara show.
Yeah.
By the way, we're still recording. Do we want to still record?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
We might as well all go to prison together. So anyway, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to cover there. And I'm trying to remember where I remember when Chris Berger was sort of questioning her analysis, or I don't know, somebody took her to task, but I can't remember who.
Chris Berger.
It was Chris Berger, right? Yeah, okay.
Right.
So he put it to her, I mean, nobody minced around in terms of what she was saying. So it's an interesting conversation, and to give her her
also
due,
was very challenging with David Chandler too.
Right. And to give her her due, I mean, she's a very articulate person and obviously has done a lot of research. And if you go into, the arguments for and against, as I say, I am still questioning on both sides. So anyway, what are you doing here? Jane? Hey, Sue, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Say again.
We lost the agenda items. What is this? you're
Oh,
doing?
I'm sorry. I was responding to Jane. Jane Clark wanted to let me stop share and start share again. I forgot it was being shared and you were seeing my typing.
Hey,
Yeah.
Chris,
I apologize.
Oh,
Go back up.
gotta go back up.
Come on, go back up. There we go.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. So moving right along, Richard Gage, in his recap of his RV speaking tour, and combining the COVID story with 9/11. He went out to Oregon and the Pacific Coast. I don't know which cities he was at, Bend, Oregon, maybe. I'm not sure, but he had very good success, combining the similarities again between, 9/11 and the rollout of the whole COVID. Again, I have issues with conflating for the our movement with COVID, but others don't, and I think it's important. Just because our numbers have gone so far, the number of people that used to join us, and currently, I always live in fear that people get bored with 9/11 and they want to go to the next shiny set of keys and find it much more interesting. But I'm always of the opinion that we're out here for one of the main purposes is for people who know nothing about 9/11, and that our job is to educate them. And so we need, it's boring to us because we've been at it for 20 years, but for those who know nothing, I mean, that's our message, or a lot of it. So anyway.
Richard has found his niche, and that's great. There's a certain segment of the population that just totally resonates with conflating the two together.
Right.
But that's just not our niche.
For Boston 9/11,
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
Agreed. And I think he's had
God bless
success
him.
with what he's doing, so I wouldn't begrudge him any of that.
Mhm.
Okay, so next on we also
Alfred, could I just ask a question?
yeah, sure.
I see that Boston 9/11 Truth has a Facebook page. Just
Yes.
wondering, like, do you have a YouTube channel or do you have a
We
website?
do have a YouTube channel as well.
Okay, so would I find Barbara Honegger's presentation there?
No, we haven't posted that. That just happened, and you'll see it. Where will you see it?
We're technologically inept, so
Well,
we
Doug
need to
West.
kind of rely on Doug West for that.
Yeah, he does all our postings, and
Yeah,
Okay, so I could just keep my eye on it. I'll subscribe to your
yeah.
YouTube channel and
And he's the same webmaster as Lawyers Committee, so he's pretty busy.
right. Although
Yeah.
Sue, you could send out to Miles the last meeting we had.
Sure.
Yeah, just send it to
It'll
his
take
email.
about, I don't know, I have to tell you, Barbara's meeting was so long, a bunch of emails bounced back saying it was too big a file.
Mhm.
I see. Okay.
So if you have limitations on how big a file your
yeah.
email can accept, you're
How about
probably
I
gonna have
I'll
difficulty.
I'll just wait and eventually I guess it'll get up to YouTube
Okay,
and I'll see it.
Yeah, try it that
all
way.
right,
Cor-
good.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Al, can you take the lead on contacting Doug West for these
Yeah,
files?
I mean, I've had him, I've been emailing him and calling him. I don't, he sort of goes in and out of the being disappeared or not, but I mean, God
Yeah,
help us if
is it a compensation issue?
Is it what?
Is it a compensation issue or just his time
No,
management?
we paid him, you know, what he
Okay.
wanted, so he got money from us, absolutely.
Okay, so
Um,
he's
no,
fine
he
with
just-
compensation.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, he's got a lot on his plate. And
Yeah, he does.
we don't, we're sort of low on the totem pole for
Right.
him.
Yeah.
So, and that would be true of David Chandler's appearance now 4 weeks ago.
Mhm.
If Miles wants to look for that, or if somebody can send him the, I think we have it somewhere, right?
Yep, I've got it on, I shared it in an email, but I've also got it on my computer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if I could be able to view it, but
yeah.
so I'll just hang tough and watch them on your YouTube channel as
Okay.
well, David Chandler.
Okay.
So next up was the very good interview by Judge Napolitano. I don't know if any of you listened to him or not, but Ray McGovern was on, and he sort of did a historical analysis of the CIA involvement from both in the Middle East and then Ukraine, and sort of touched on 9/11 in his conversations. But
God love him. He's been at this for decades.
oh yeah, no, he's a trooper. I mean, I remember when we were out in the middle of a snowstorm and he had his street shoes on and the weather was just horrendous, and we went down to the 4 Point channel, and the wind was blowing, and he didn't flinch at all.
He must have slipped and slided a lot. Gee,
Yeah, I thought this guy, you know, he's got more in him than I do. I was
amazing.
ready to pack it in, but
Yeah.
so anyway, good thing to
And
listen
he
to.
beat cancer. He beat throat
Yeah,
cancer.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
he was almost on his way out.
Yeah, that was like 12 years ago or something.
Well, I thought it was even more recent than that,
Yeah.
but no, God love him. He doesn't back down from anybody.
Right.
And you, if you're not aware, he's speaking to the Massachusetts Peace Action JFK Committee on November 22nd, a
Oh, yeah.
webinar and a live webinar, and he'll be talking about John F. Kennedy and the peace speech of 1963 on the anniversary
Of
of
okay.
JFK's assassination,
That's the 22nd.
November 22nd. You'll
Okay,
find the link, I'm sure, if you go to the peaceaction.org, I think it's masspeaceaction.org is
Yep.
their website.
that's right, and MAPPA, which you're a member of, by the way, aren't you, Miles?
Well, I don't pay a due. I never signed up. I just attend as I
just go to it,
can. They
yeah,
seem to be
right.
very open to
Yeah.
anybody. So that's
No,
great.
they're open to us. We participated in a demonstration down at Park Street Station, and back a year ago, or longer ago than that. But we had all our signs out there, and they didn't give us any grief at all. They were very
Real friendly response, in fact.
The what?
It was a friendly response.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. So anyway, moving right along, another guy I listen to religiously is the Scott Ritter, former UN weapons inspector, who does some tremendous research, and he has an interview that he's talking. The link is right there, about the Middle East and his take on what's going on there, and used to be a big supporter for Israel and now has come out blazing against them and what's going on there. So, and his view of he, unfortunately, I tried to contact him about 9/11 and sent him emails. I said, you know, a guy of your intelligence and research would, you know, what is your opinion about what happened on 9/11? And I gave him all of our websites to go to. Crickets. I haven't heard anything from the guy, but he's into everything. I mean, in the way of once he gets on a subject, there's no stone left unturned with that guy. So
You have his email address, Al?
somewhere I'd have to bring it up. I don't have.
If
I
you
can
send it to me, I'd
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah. So anyway, I would urge you to go to and listen to that. It's very educational, very interesting.
Is that with Cyrus Jansen?
Sorry?
Cyrus Jansen, did you say?
No, Scott Ritter, we're talking about?
Yeah, with Cyrus Jansen. There's a.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's a 45-minute, yeah, YouTube. Okay,
Yeah. There
thank you.
go. So then we sort of touched on this earlier, but Graham McQueen's War, Peace, and 9/11, you know, with the idea that Boston 9/11 Truth wants to spread the word and have it either, you know, in a cinema or at the Watertown Library. You know, given our numbers, I don't know how likely that's going to be, but it's an action item that we can discuss and hopefully we can make it happen because
Let's make it happen. Let's
Yeah.
just contact them and we'll promote the hell out of it.
right.
We can have even do reservations at a local restaurant for a
Yes.
meeting, and you know, people love to eat and talk and drink and
Right.
you know, make a real event out of it.
Yeah.
We can
We'd
make this
invite Ted for
happen.
that. Is that correct?
What?
Sorry?
We'd invite Ted to show the film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he said he would come.
Oh,
Yeah.
he would. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. If we
Well, that would
showed
be
it,
great.
he said he would do what he can to come.
And he's he can certainly stay with our family. So we're old family
Excellent.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
the
great.
step
Yeah.
one is contact the theaters and
Right.
see who will show it.
Yep.
I would like to bring up, no, I'm not muted, that I've recently become very much a fan of 19 Carter Street in Berlin, and they have movie nights.
Oh.
I would like to approach the executive officers over there and bring the subject up to them.
Now, we also need to talk about the format. What are we going to show it on?
They have a system there that is either DVD or memory stick. You know, they have a projector system and a screen.
Because right now, all we have is bringing it up on the internet.
Right, it'd be
So
really
we need a DVD.
Right.
Well, or a memory stick.
Well, either one we don't have.
Right. Well, we could ask Ted about that.
Okay, we should have
Yeah, I
done that
think,
while he was with us.
Doesn't I think do they have a store on his website or a place where you
Oh,
can get that? Because
well, let me stop share screen and look at that. All right. Because if I look at it while I'm share screening, you're going to see me fumbling around. What's the website again?
I see 911.
I see for 9/11 justice.
Okay. (9-11) or just 911 or what?
911.
911, I think.
No hyphens.
.org.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Probably, yeah.
Let me look it up too. I think I have a link.
Nope. not .org.
Didn't come up. Can you Google it?
I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
So while you're doing that, moving along to Chris Joyous' recent revelations, he was on, where were we listening to him? Wasn't he on the War Room? And he came up with, you were there, Sue, weren't you? Do you remember? He had a breakthrough of some kind, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was.
I'm sorry, I was multitasking. Start over again.
Chris Joya
Yeah.
in the War Room this past Sunday had a revelation of some kind, and I can't remember what it was.
Me neither. I didn't think it was a revelation, just his coming out and speaking again.
Yeah, no, he's become more vocal, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
no, there was something about somebody in the fire, whether it was another fireman that has stepped forward, or he said it was a big breakthrough.
Oh,
And I have to go back and listen to the War Room to get, I didn't have time before this meeting
oh,
to do that.
The thing is done.
Sorry?
The bags have a weird smell. You might want to wash them.
oh, somebody is talking about something else.
Yeah, sorry, let me mute myself.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Yep. Who's sharing screen? That's great.
I am, Susan. Do you want me to stop?
Okay. No, see if you can, if there's anything about purchasing the film.
Okay, that would be under, not donate, but resources. Films and videos, documentaries, short videos, presentations, and interviews. What would this be under? Should I just check documentaries first?
Take a look at donate and see if that brings you to an offer.
See,
Okay.
donate down under the title here.
Okay.
No, up above.
No.
All right, so we have to contact Ted Walter to see if he can get us either a stick or a DVD.
Yeah, I can't imagine he wouldn't have it.
Yeah,
IC911.org.
yeah.
I guess it's Redacted Presents, so maybe Redacted is the,
Yeah, but I don't know if
Outfit that
a
has to do-
theater can project a website. You see what I mean?
Sort out that,
We need a format to present to a theater. We want it in the theater on a big
Yeah.
screen.
I just wonder if you go to the Redacted website, maybe they sell it at Redacted Presents website,
Huh?
since I think it's their documentary, isn't it?
No, it isn't.
No.
Oh, it's not?
It's the International Center for 9/11 Justice. It's Ted
I would-
Walters.
I would get what
Maybe.
Ted wants to share.
It's Ted's creation.
Yeah, and he said he would come out for a public viewing of it.
Yeah, he's.
So that's our next step. Well, if you want to come out for a public viewing, you got to give us a format we can share on a big screen.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so now we're going somewhere. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a way to purchase this.
Yeah, well.
Need it
I don't
either
think
on a
it's-
DVD or a stick is my guess.
just-
I don't think
we'll-
a theater can share a website.
We'll talk to Ted and
Yeah.
and I'm not concerned that he's not gonna give us a
Yeah.
DVD.
Yeah,
Obviously, he wants to promote it, so,
yeah,
it's a done deal. Don't worry about it.
Well,
yeah.
some acceptable
Would
format.
we do this as a benefit for his organization?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
He's willing to come out, no question about it. And we're not trying to make money off of this thing, so.
Oh, God, no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although
um,
bringing that up, we have two subscribers for our PayPal. Anytime you want to support Boston 911 Truth, we won't turn your money away.
Right, yeah. Money, money, money. Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I apologize about not being able to articulate what Chris Joy had revealed, but I know it had to do with something inside the fire prevention, some fireman that was up in the chain of command or something
Well,
around.
what struck me, I don't know if this was it, but he says very forcefully that if a fireman or other first responder says they heard explosions as paid first professional responders, they claim they witnessed an explosion, then explosions must be investigated by
Yeah.
law.
Absolutely.
Well,
That's what,
maybe
Right.
that was it, yeah, because he seemed to think that this was a big deal, and
this is
And
just as strong as the National Fire Protection Association involvement, at least as strong an involvement or an association.
yeah.
And when you got Graham McQueen's research and all those, the documentary 9/11 War and Peace is all about professional first responders claiming they've heard explosions, and yet they completely illegally
Ignoring it, yeah.
obfuscated, ignored it, willful negligence.
A number of people felt the earth shake moments before the collapse of each of the towers and before the collapse of building number 7. And there was a major event prior to the strike of the first plane that was recorded seismically, which is still a bit of a mystery.
Well, you don't
The
have
other
to,
two, you can pretty well say this occurred just prior to the, okay, Susan, go ahead.
anyway, you don't have to convince us. So anyway, the last bit of discussion, I can't remember who was on the call even last night, anybody here. But that is the Zoom meeting that we attended, Craig McGee. I think if you're able to copy that site, you could get on, because it was recorded. And
Well, the site, that's just the Zoom link that I have there.
oh, that's just the
And I'm
Zoom link.
sorry I even shared that because a
Okay.
lot of people missed this call tonight because they were trying to join our call tonight by clicking on that Zoom
Oh,
link.
geez.
That is the only
Yeah,
link
so I
on there.
really screwed up. I apologize to
Yeah.
those who are not able to join us.
That's
I
too
went to
bad.
that link. I went to that link first. Can you
Yeah.
hear? Yeah, I clicked on
Yeah.
your latest email about 9/11, Boston 9/11 Truth, and that was the only link on it. So I realized the problem and looked for your previous email, which got
Yeah,
me.
I screwed up. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Well, you
With all you
guys
do, with all
figured
you
it
do,
out, but those who didn't join us couldn't figure it out. And that's why I was multitasking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because people were responding saying, I clicked on a link and couldn't join. I was like, oh my God, I know what I
Okay,
did
yeah.
now. I totally screwed up. I made
Just think of
people.
all the things you've done right, Susan.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
That's
not
no
this week.
comparison.
Nothing right this week. It's been a disaster this week.
You've done everything right, and you've done really well considering getting all your ducks in a row and dealing with the catastrophe.
Yeah, my home catastrophe.
Right, your own 9/11.
Yeah. I mean, really, my dining room kind of looks like the destruction of the towers right now.
That insurance guy says, "How do you make a flood?" Not here. Everybody's looking at
It was a bright, sunny, warm day when this happened.
so instead
you
of
know
the
what they
fire
say.
arsonists for collecting insurances, how do you make a flood? I remember listening to a joke my father. Well, Susan knows how to make a flood now.
It
To
happened, right.
collect insurance money.
Oh
Yeah,
dear. Well, we
Just wondering,
digress.
I'm wondering, is
Finally,
there now time for new business? By any chance?
Sorry?
Yes, new business.
Well, new business. I'd just like to, I don't, correct me if I heard Jimmy Dore talking about General Wesley Clark's
Oh,
interview
yes.
10 days after 9/11 saying,
Yep.
oh, was that on the War Room? Did we talk about that at the War Room, or did I see it
Been-
just
I think
recently?
we
Probably
saw it
a
on,
number
on
of times.
YouTube is where I saw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Came through as an email to me, but I subscribe to Jimmy Dore, so.
Yeah, so do I. So but anyway, the bottom line is that is really powerful that Jimmy Dore gave a program of his to that letter and or the General Wesley Clark interview
Right,
by
right.
Democracy Now, because he says, right there that 10 days after 9/11, this is when this guy, another general or someone high in authority, comes in and says, oh, we're going to invade 7 countries in 5 years. Now, this is important because tomorrow morning, the leader of Hezbollah is going to be making a statement. And it's as though we are now on the eve of invading a couple of those countries, the West invading, for whatever reasons they can come up with, Lebanon and Iran.
Right.
And so we, just stay tuned, because tomorrow is going to be a big day. Because if this leader of Hezbollah says, I'm declaring war on Israel, then all hell can break loose very quickly. But I guess in summary, I would just say that we need these invasions of these 7 countries in, well, it wasn't 5 years, it's now 20 some years. It's all connected to 9/11, and he says 9/11 at the very outset. So it's all linking up, at least circumstantially.
Well, you only have to
You
look at
make
our,
me think of another issue that's coming up next week, elections. Who the hell can we vote for?
You can vote for me.
Yeah, well, you're not running.
I-
And you
I have a
wouldn't serve
handicap.
if you were elected anyway.
I have a disability. I can't run.
Yeah.
so why don't we finish up and then we can open it up?
Okay, I thought we were on the last item.
Well, the last item was Richard Krushnick's appearance on Craig McGee.
Oh, I thought we were done with that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I urge people to, I mean, it was brilliant what he had talked about, and he had unbelievable amount of information in that appearance, and definitely anybody here that wants to hear about Richard and all the things that he's into, it's a must listen, I think.
Where do we find it again? The recording?
Again, that's going to be
It's on Truth and Shadows.
Truth and
Well, I
Shadows.
don't know if they've published it yet, but they recorded last night's meeting, so it will be published.
I
Truth
think
and
that you
Shadows
have, I
YouTube?
think that you had the link for it in the bottom of the message.
No, that was the link to join the meeting. That was a Zoom link.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just going forward, the last bit of agenda is where do we go from here? We've already talked about the movie as part of an action item. The other thing they've been talking about, well, in the war room, is trying to enlist the way A&E has been trying to enlist engineering students, and we've never done much about that. And the Alaska study, I know Chris Berger has had some experience with that out in front of BU, but it's still a worthy thing that we could table out in front of it, and to enlist some of the students coming out of the engineering classes, and have them at least take one of our Alaska study brochures. So that's something else, if people are looking for things to take action on, that's a good one. and would urge anybody, which would probably end up being Lorenzo, myself, and Susan, but
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Susan and I have, she lives in Worcester, and there's
Well,
Worcester
there's
Public.
WPI in Worcester.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and the one that Callisto went to, good engineering school at the other college.
Well, here in Boston, starting with Wentworth.
Clark.
Clark, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Clark.
Wentworth, Northeastern would be a great one. They all have good engineering schools.
Yeah, no, yeah.
There's something like 30. I Googled how many engineering schools there are in Massachusetts. There's something like 31 of them.
MIT.
Yeah.
And of course, David Schlesinger has, spent his life trying to enlist MIT, but they're a government organization that wouldn't bite the hand that feeds them, that's for sure.
I have an old friend, Richard Scheideroff, Durling, but Richard Scheideroff, who lives, if he's still alive, lives up in Maine. And we were hippies together up in the Northeast coast. Well, he founded the MIT Entrepreneurs Club or something like that. And he is, over the years, has officiated over it. I brought up this stuff to him, and he did not want to hear it at all.
Yeah.
I believe that, I mean, part of it might, who knows exactly why, I can't really get into why, but he's involved with an engineering school that's very much into the military industrial complex too.
Right.
And
Just look who's supporting them.
yeah, it's a real difficult, it's a difficult wall to knock on.
Yeah, the ticket is getting
Never wanted to
somebody,
hear it again. He did not want to hear anything about it.
you got to get somebody within the administration. Everybody is tenured or in a position of instructor or adjunct faculty. Nobody's going to risk their job over it. Even it's just the reality. So you got to find somebody in administration. I'm afraid leafleting schools is really not I don't know. To my mind, it's sort of a futile.
It's a way to get to the grassroots, though, Henry, to the people. I mean, I've approached a couple of young people.
Well, anyway,
I've approached a couple of young people recently, with links to all of the good, the accepted stuff like A&E and IC. There are some people that are becoming very receptive to it. Again, it's a difficult subject. I was actually approached by a firefighter at the Hudson Fire Station. The last, when we went to this last memorial event, and he said he recognized me because he's on Facebook, and he was very encouraging, but he also said, I'm familiar with your work, keep up the good work. But he also said, this is a subject that nobody wants to engage in.
yeah,
Nobody. People, the fire chief rejected any possibility of having a conversation with me. And I confronted him, and he, don't want to talk about it. I mean, it's a waste.
Crosses the street to get away from you.
Crosses the street to get away from me.
I mean, I think what you said earlier, Al, about trying, this opportunity that might be here now with unfolding events in the Middle East. If there's one way to get people's attention is that if it, it's exposed on an international level, and then, then there may be an opening. So I think it is a good time to reach out to people, but I think you've got to direct it to people who will listen or you make a relationship with. And as I mentioned before, I think that this latest movie that Ted's created is a real ticket in. And if it can get it to people, it will soften them up. And I'm going to try the head of the school where I went to architecture school here in Boston Architectural College, and I could even try Wentworth and going over there with that movie, because
the key to that movie is it's full of heart.
Yeah, and
it really is just so full of heart. Who could object to it? It's like your grandmother telling you something.
And the fact that Graham was teaching and he was working with kids.
Professional educator, exactly.
Yeah, he was a loving soul, and that comes across. You know, not this angry activism, combative stuff, which people just want to flee from.
Right. His brokenheartedness for the world radiates through in the film.
Good to
Yeah,
see you, Chris.
it was
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant. The best cinematography for 9/11 I've seen yet.
And it was,
I'll report
Yeah.
back.
mostly his face.
No,
It brought tears to my eyes.
the lighting, the
Oh,
film
yeah.
angles, everything. The editing was
Yeah.
brilliantly done.
Absolutely. No argument.
Professional top to bottom. I
His-
mean,
his face showed
definitely
up.
rivals any of the big producers in Hollywood and their ability to produce something artistically beautiful.
Yeah.
I just can't say enough for the film.
It's a great film.
Well, let's promote it any way we can.
Let's get it. Let's get a copy from Ted so that we'll
Yep.
be able to share it broadly. Be
Yep.
able to bring it to the 19 Carter Street and say, let's take a look at this. Is this something you'd care to show here? Give them a preview. Get the media so that we can share it. I mean, get it tomorrow, get it tonight.
Well, 19 Carter, we don't have to wait on that because they could share a website, right?
I think so, but it has to show up on a website, the whole film.
Yeah, the whole film does show up on websites.
Please
But
share
I
that
think
with
a big screen, they'll need a stick or a DVD.
No,
sure-
they can show it.
sure
They can
Ted-
do anything we can on the computer here. They, any media, including playing a website, is a possibility, just like we share screen. They can put up the image that's on their screen and put it on, that's on their computer and project it onto a screen. That's not a problem.
You're sure about that? Can you check
sure.
that out, Al, when you call West Newton and Watertown?
What am I asking them?
What format do they need?
Oh, yeah, okay. What format? Okay.
Also ask them if they can play videos like from YouTube or videos on the web. If they have
Okay.
that they're linked to being able to show any video that they can find.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not just
Well, and there are some there's legal questions around public broadcast of any piece of work. So like if you just invite friends, you can play any music, show any movie to your friends. But if you are opening it up to public broadcast,
Yeah.
and even if you're not selling tickets, even if it's free, there you get into some. It depends who owns the broadcast
Ted
rights.
will allow that, guys.
yeah, Ted, yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
If
I've
Ted
got-
owns it.
I gotta sign off.
He
'cause
may have to sign something.
One at a time here. Henry, you're leaving.
I've got to sign off, yeah, but it's great to see you all, and I'll try checking in again for another one, and I'll report back on my efforts to reach out to a handful of people with that movie, and
Yeah, definitely. Let us know how you make out.
Excellent. Thank you.
Quick question for Henry. You still involved with Nessie?
oh yeah, and I'll send the latest link. I've every year on 9/11, I still have my published piece on the Nessie. In fact, I wrote about the Ted's movie, and I'll pop that over to you, Al and Susan. You can share it with everybody.
Good.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. I have to go too. And let me ask, I'm sorry I didn't make it here in time for Ted's talk tonight. Are you gonna put, Al, are you gonna put Ted's talk this evening on our website? Is there a way I can access what
We have to rely on Doug West to do things on our website.
I see.
But Sue, aren't you able to just send an email?
I can send an email and it will be tomorrow morning.
Okay.
That'd be fantastic. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Good to see you all.
Good to see you all.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Henry,
you.
great seeing you
Thank
again.
you.
See you. All right.
Namaste.
Namaste.
One last item, Papa. We haven't talked about our intention of what we're gonna do about the Florida Orlando convention this coming 2024 in June. But Sue, do we have a meeting? I know we've been meeting or talked about meeting once a
Well,
month.
they said once a month. Let's see, I'm looking it up right now. Let's see. First Tuesday of the month.
So that's already gone, but no, next week.
Yeah, it has.
No,
Shit.
we're into November, so November 7th.
November 7th. Okay. Okay, right. So
Yeah,
that's
Tuesday
our
was the
next
end of
meeting.
last month.
So
What?
that's,
I said Tuesday was the end of last month, right?
yeah,
Right,
yeah, really.
Right,
Halloweeny.
right.
Um,
I'm all screwed up, sorry.
the other last bit of an item that we had touched on earlier a while ago was are we wanting to fly a banner over Gillette Stadium when the Jets come get there? But the fact that Aaron Rodgers is, kind of lost the panache that he had after he tore his Achilles tendon.
Right.
Maybe too far in the past now. I don't know.
I'm afraid so, and also our limited resources
Well, we don't have the
monetarily.
money, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, what does our bank account have? Like $400, something like
If
that?
that, yeah, if that.
Yeah. And it's what, $1,200 to fly a banner?
Yep.
I don't know if we can muster up enough money to do so, and how effective will it be considering Aaron Rodgers' status?
Well, considering how the Patriots are doing too,
Yeah,
people are
Are you
leaving.
guys talking about sports of some kind?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the revolution.
Mm. That's the
yeah.
only piece of the sports I pay attention to.
Right.
The football, I mean, not the football, but the soccer.
No,
No,
it's football.
football.
In this country, it's football. In overseas, soccer is football.
You don't know about Aaron Rodgers, Lorenzo?
Yeah, I've heard.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've been paying attention to the war room calls, and he plays football or something.
Yeah, he was the quarterback.
Yeah.
For the New York Jets. Who's
Okay.
a
The
9/11
Jets, that's how,
truther.
yeah, that's how the whole thing fits together.
Yeah, jet
Jets.
fuel doesn't melt steel.
Yeah.
Folks, I gotta run. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Oh,
I hope
thank
you
you
come.
for joining us, Miles, and I hope you
Really.
become a regular. This is awesome.
Okay, I'll do my best. See
All
you
the
next
way
All
time.
right.
from
We're gonna have
Vancouver.
great guests.
Yeah, no,
Hey,
well
that
done.
would be our next agenda item. Who should we invite
Who should
for
we
our
get
next guest?
Me,
Yeah.
and I'm running for president too.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Who's that guy that has the boot on top of his head that ran for president? What am I thinking?
Oh God, what was his name? He had a weird name.
Yeah, well,
Libertarian candidate.
he made up his own name, but
Yeah. So here's a crazy thought.
Let's see your face, Susan.
All right. I'm muted instead. I was eating my dinner, so I stopped the video. Dennis Kucinich, since he got fired from RFK, has been posting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Did he get fired?
he
Is that-
did.
Yes. RFK didn't say so, but the inside skinny is he was fired because
Yeah,
of their differences on Israel.
I thought he quit because of Israel.
Well, they had, all right, I guess I need to amend that. They had irreconcilable differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Dennis Kucinich, which I just sent to you, Al, and you, Lorenzo, his latest post.
Okay.
So he's kind of unleashed right now too. So that would be an interesting guest.
I'm unhinged. It's even more fun being unhinged than unleashed.
You've always been unhinged.
Okay,
You
muted.
be, send me a link to that,
Sure.
that-
Yeah,
if you,
yeah.
when you have a chance.
yeah.
Thank you.
Well, if I don't do it now, I won't remember.
Yeah,
So anyway,
or tell me how to access it. Yeah, whatever you,
so I believe one of our members who's been in the background, but she's on our email list, Nance White, has his email. So I don't know if he would be interested. And I did work with Dennis Kucinich way back in the Impeach Bush days before I got involved in 9/11. So he may or may not remember me. So it might be something that is a possibility.
Oh, it'd be fantastic.
I don't know how high a possibility. So let's come up with some other speaker names.
Well, let's think about that. We've done Chandler, we've
Craig
done,
McKee
well, that's a possibility. I know he would do it. I'm
or
pretty sure.
Cheryl Curtis.
Yeah, yeah, those two.
Uh-huh.
Let me think about this.
Does anybody have an inside skinny to either Kevin Barrett or Kevin Ryan?
Kevin Barrett would be great. I don't know.
Anybody have his private email to be
Yeah.
able to invite him?
I think the only way is to go on False Flag Weekly or yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at his what does he call himself now? It's Truth Jihad, I think is the name of his show. But I don't think they have his personal email. I think it's probably just contact us on our website.
Here's a better idea for our next speaker that I just thought of. Since we're going to be having a meeting next Tuesday
Right.
with Papa,
Yep.
Eric Lawyer,
Yep. That's a good one.
or Chris Joya.
Yeah, I don't know. Chris is sort of a tough one to pin down.
Yeah.
I think Eric would might be easier.
Okay. So let's approach him next Tuesday and see if he'd be willing to be our next speaker.
Okay. Got it.
you're muted, Lawrence.
I just posted in the chat Zoom with Mark Govan regarding 9/11 synthesis. It was a good interaction, and I was able to, he was able to ask some really good questions. I think it's a fairly good presentation. So I'm just sharing it on the chat so that you can see it, Al, and you can see it, Jane, if you want to.
Thank you. Another thought would be Jean and Sandra.
Oh, that's the low hanging fruit.
Yeah, isn't it?
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they would join us.
Yeah, I'm certain they would.
Yeah. All right. Who wants to take the lead on? I vote for them. Does anybody object to that?
Nope.
All right. Do you want to
you're-
take the
you-
lead
you
on
and-
inviting them, or shall I take the
I
lead
think
on?
you and Sandra have sort of a chemistry together, so.
We're astrological sisters. Same
Right, yeah.
birthday.
So she couldn't refuse that.
Yeah. Okay.
Same
Okay.
year, Sue?
No, she's much younger.
Oh, all right.
But
She just
September
looks old.
7th is our birthday.
She just looks older.
Yeah, she's about 10 or 11 years younger. I can't remember how many
Okay.
years younger.
Yeah, I think that's what Jane said, was about 10 years.
Yeah.
She's in her early 50s, isn't she?
Oh, she's 20 years younger.
I guess you'll have to
Oh
put
my
that down
God,
among the
everybody
questions
looks
to
like a
ask.
baby who's under 50.
You can ask her, so you know, ask her that question on the call.
Uh-huh.
How old are you?
I could probably find that on Facebook.
Yeah, no, she's.
When's your
on the way
birthday,
there,
right?
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
question.
but I was all focused on my birthday, not hers at the time. So, yeah. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's been a-
Yeah,
been a
that
good
would be
meeting.
great.
Yeah.
We
I
could
think
have
so.
them as a duo guest
Right.
speakers.
Yep, get them to chat it up.
And then we'll work on in the meantime, we'll work on the other guest speakers. and-
Yeah. Yeah,
Because there's a lot of people we could have.
Oh, yeah.
We
I
could
love
fill
the
out the whole
idea.
year.
Henry McLean.
Henry McLean is another one. Yeah.
Dennis Kucinich, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wrap for tonight, unless anybody else has got any burning issues they want to bring up.
I just want to say I'm glad to be able to tune in, in a compromised way with all of you guys. And even I'm not offering much, input, but anyway, I'm just happy to stay connected the best I can.
Are
Yeah.
you
Nice.
still willing to open up your house for meetings?
Yes, I've said that.
Because
am.
this is something you missed in a discussion earlier
Yeah.
at the very beginning when Ted Walter was asking how big our group was, and I had to tell him that even though we got an email list of 285, only 5 or 6 are really involved in that. Once COVID hit and we stopped meeting in person, that energy just kind of faded away.
And half the people probably who were attending my meetings, the ones I was hosting, are no longer here one way or another, whether it's moved or died or,
Yeah, with Bill Wilt. Did anybody ever find out his obituary or
No.
actual cause of death or anything?
No,
It's just awful.
I know.
It haunts me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
And-
haunts me.
Barton Bruce is out in Davis, California now, and I don't know where Hamuk is on all of this. He doesn't show up, does he, much?
No.
Yeah.
He did
So-
show up for was it Barbara Honecker or David Chandler? I can't remember. He did show up on
Yeah.
one of our meetings.
Right, one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was a kind of a nice surprise. He didn't stay for the whole meeting though.
He didn't
Uh-huh.
say anything that I recall. I think.
No.
Yeah.
Really? How
Yeah.
unlike?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if we can revive in-person meetings.
I think Chris Berger was interested in that.
Mhm.
And now maybe Al, I think he was, Al, I don't know about, you were a little hesitant during COVID or shortly after that, but anyway, I'm I'm open.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You're doing really well, Jane.
Hanging in there. Yeah.
Yeah. You look still very in the prime of health.
My
You feel so?
my infirmities are stable. That's probably the best summary I could say. They're not,
Well, you
not-
still get out and about. It's wonderful.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
lucky so far. Yep.
Yeah. You're an inspiration. All right.
Well, okay. I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Oh, thank you for joining us. And I'm sorry I didn't provide the correct links and cause confusion about the latest reminder. But hopefully,
I figured that out too. I tried the first one and it kept saying, I don't know. Anyway, whatever. I
yeah,
really,
it was the Truth and Shadows link that Richard Krushnick was on.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't realize when I did that would cause confusion. I apologize for that, and it's understandable confusion. My fault.
you are
So,
you are forgiven.
our next meeting.
I'm
is
forgiven for those who were able to join us. For those who were not able to join us, I'm sure I am not forgiven.
Yeah, maybe.
All
Our
right.
next meeting is the 16th.
Right, and I'm leaving for California the very next day.
Okay,
But that's all right. It squeezes in, so I can do that.
all right, okay. So, well, between now and then, we got to get a speaker, but let's see how
Yeah.
that works.
Jean and Sandra.
And Sandra, yeah.
All right, and we'll think about our next speaker in the meantime, because it probably takes a while to line up those big headliner speakers.
Right, right.
Okay. All right, good.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night, everyone.